Hello, this is the Hall Forum. My name is Michael Riccards, and our guest is President Donohue of Mercer County Community College. We wanted to just pick up the question, really, of preparation of students that we had talked about. We mentioned the fact that people have deficiencies in, obviously, English and mathematics and what is somehow called critical thinking, and, of course, in reading. But what about in the substantive areas as well? History, for example.
Some students come to us very well prepared. The high schools differentiate what is really a college preparatory program, and those students have a good broad background. One of the other areas that students who didn't finish high school, either here or someplace else, often take the general education diploma program and complete the GED. And while they get a broad brush over things, we often find they have to keep running very hard to fill in details they might have learned in a broad-based preparatory program. So we do bring people in. We sometimes try to link the history class with the English class, so we're reinforcing the writing skills that they use in history for their essays, for their term papers. We also have those questions in science classes. And because we have so many students who want to enter the health professions, they need a lot of science classes, and many do come with a neglected background. They simply haven't studied enough. We have a lot of tutors available to help students as they work their way through those courses, and we do have some students who take the courses more than once.
What happens on the question of GEDs? I hear a lot of people telling me that, in fact, they're really not terribly difficult, not really very significant. They encourage students to come back and to get a piece of paper, but the piece of paper isn't very helpful, either in job training or in higher education.
Actually, the piece of paper is pretty helpful. The stats there are about like for any other student. For the students who are taking their GED because they know they want to go to work or they want to enter college, they know they need to learn those skills. Now, students can just take the GED, or they can be in a program that prepares them for the GED. And like all other learning situations, those who take the program, who've been through a series of learning activities, an organized curriculum of materials to prepare, generally do better. We run what are government-funded programs for adults, for adult basic education, which is much lower level than the GED program, and we also run the GED programs to prepare students, many of whom do come on and they are successful at college-level work.
One of our trustees at the Hall Institute written a couple of articles about the cuts that are taking place in terms of state assistance and the rise also in tuition and fees. And he argues that it closes down opportunities for a large segment of the population to enter the middle class. Now, you face that directly in terms of your day-to-day operations, and you face it with every new budget you get. Give us an idea of the magnitude of the difficulties that you face.
In its conception, community colleges were going to be funded a third by the county, a third by the state, and a third by the students. In some states, it said the maximum of a third from the students. We here at Mercer are between 45 and 50% funded by the students now. And every time the trustees have to raise tuition, we really have a soul-searching discussion about the fact that our mission is to be accessible and affordable, that any adult who needs to learn in New Jersey has that opportunity to get higher education and prepare themselves for the workforce. This year, with the proposed cuts, an actual 10% dollar cut. This isn't standing still or no increase. It's a shortfall. We're going back to the level of state funding from 6 or 7 years ago. So we have had to pass on much more of that increase to students. And for the students who are very close to the line, that may be the reason they can take one course instead of taking two, that it'll slow down their progress. Or the reason why they have to work 10 more hours a week in order to keep up. And every time the students have to work longer to pay their tuition, they also complicate their ability to study and be successful in learning.
Is this a cut in just the normal progression of increases that you've come to expect, or is this a cut in real dollars?
This is a cut in real dollars. We will have 10% less money coming from the state this year in '09 than we do currently in the '08 fiscal year.
So that means if you got $9 million from the state, this year you'd get 8.1.
That's correct.
In real dollars.
In real dollars.
And does that include, or is it outside of the budget, the monies that go into fringe benefits, especially pension, medical care? Is that paid by the state directly, or do you have to pay a portion of that?
For the community colleges, none of that is paid directly by the state. That is fully within our college budgets. That is one of our issues that legislators are discussing as the parity issue, that the way they fund four-year institutions does include money that helps pay those salary and benefit increases, and the funding for county colleges does not.
So if one is in a county where the per capita income is fairly high, Bergen, versus a community that has really very small tax base, then it really impacts directly, doesn't it?
It certainly
on the
does.
community colleges. We'll come back and discuss that in our third segment.